Hello, I'm Jim Demo with Clark County Close-Up. Thank you both for meeting with us.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Scott, let's start with you. What's the role of the Clark Regional Emergency Services Agency, also known as CRESA?
So CRESA is the Consolidated 911 and Emergency Management Agency for Clark County and the 7 cities within Clark County. Any 911 call to law enforcement, fire, or EMS rings at CRESA. We also provide emergency management services to the cities in Clark County as well as the county.
Okay. And Mike, can you explain your role with the county?
Yeah, basically with the county I have a kind of a dual role, internal and external. Internally, I work on a lot of the life safety issues, run our fire drills, earthquake drills, preparedness training for employees, all those kind of things, and internal planning. Externally, I work with Scott and our other partners, and basically I'm a representative and emergency response coordinator for the county government itself.
Okay. Now we're, 9 months through 2017, and it just seems a year filled with disasters from fires, flooding, mass shootings. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about hurricanes around here too much, but what other types of events could hit this area?
So winter weather is one of the most impactful events that we have. Not only does unusually thick snow hamper our ability to function as a community, but the after effects. It can lead to flooding, it can lead to landslides. So those natural disasters are some of our areas of bigger concern. They're not catastrophic disasters, but they are large disasters that can have a great impact on people's lives, our ability to work, and our ability as communities and governments to function as normal. So those are some of the events that we spend a lot of time focusing on at this time of the year.
Okay. Scott, how does CRESA help prepare for this region for a disaster?
We do that primarily in 2 ways. The first and the most important is by educating the public on their role as individuals and as communities on what they can do. Every disaster starts local, and the more prepared we are as individuals and as communities, the better we as a community can respond. The second way we do that is by working with our partner agencies in government, non-governmental organizations, first responders, and support agencies to create a framework that supports those people in communities when disasters happen. So it's really a 2-pronged approach.
Okay. And in a large-scale disaster, like earthquake, how would the cities, county, and federal government coordinate their efforts?
So we use something called the National Incident Management System. It's a protocol that's been developed over the last 25 years to help support local agencies, whether that's local city, local county, local state, from the next level of government. It's a structured plan that maintains the integrity and the jurisdictional authority of each agency or level of government while providing them the support that they need.
Okay. Now in a major type of disaster like this, what are some of the top priorities local government would be?
So regardless of the scale or complexity, we always focus on 3 things, and in this order. The first is life safety. Any disaster or emergency, regardless of its cause, is going to endanger people's lives. The first thing we want to do is address life safety, keeping people safe, keeping people from getting hurt, and treating those that have been injured. The second is incident stabilization. Any incident is going to get worse before it gets better, and we want to limit that and begin to stabilize the incident. The third priority is the restoration or protection of critical infrastructure. Those are our priorities. Those are the goals we work on, regardless of the cause or complexity of an incident.
Okay. Mike, as we've seen with recent disasters, government agencies and utilities, they can get spread really thin quickly.
Right.
How long should people be prepared to be on their own without many essential services?
Right. Basically what we're teaching nowadays is 10 to 14 days, having a 10 to 14 day preparedness kit. I know for the longest time we were talking 72 hours.
Right.
After drills, exercises, looking at different things, it's kind of become standard for a 10 to 14 day. It's really hard to say how long people are going to be without power, without some of the utilities, transportation, depending upon what the disaster is. But that 10 to 14 day time frame is when the cavalry is going to come running in, or within that time frame we should have some help. If you look at Puerto Rico, it's a great example of like what Cascadia might look like around here. And if you look at that response, it took time to get the supplies down there, to get transportation routes back opened up, those kind of things. So 10 to 14 days is a good time frame for having a kit.
Okay, well, that's a long time. So let's talk about some recommendations. How can families get prepared to be on their own potentially for that longer period?
So there's so many things that trying to cover it here would be impossible, but what I really want to do is get people resources. And during our regional hazard mitigation plan, we did some questions throughout the community and got a lot of information back. A lot of people overwhelmed with the information or so much. Caressa has a preparedness website. Washington Emergency Management Division has a great preparedness website with a couple of the documents I like. Prepare in a Year is a really good starting point. If people go look for that, it comes in multiple languages. It just kind of walks through both home preparedness, personal preparedness, those kind of things. I think it still mentions the 72-hour kit, so bop that up to 10 to 14 days. Ready.gov has them. There's a ton of places. The Weather Channel has a great preparedness kit checklist. What I tell people to do is print out. I'm going to print out and kind of look at them, print out a few of those checklists. There's going to be a lot of the standard stuff on there, but each one seems to always have something extra, and then go down them, highlight what's important to you, and every kit and every preparedness effort has to be kind of personalized. Whether it's medications, where you live, what kind of things you're exposed to there. I think Scott's going to talk later about Map Your Neighborhood, but it's a community approach. Start thinking about people in the neighborhood you could help or coming together. Because when we talk about Cascadia, one of the things we're starting to talk about is the thing called micro islands, where due to transportation, road issues, damage, those kind of things, the county's probably going to be broken up into different micro islands. We don't have the technology right now to look at it and go, it's going to be here and there. But again, I'll let Scott talk about the Map Your Neighborhood program a little bit more and that stuff when we get there.
And just, you talked about Cascadia a couple times. Could you mind just filling us in? What
the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is one of the dangers that they say is out there. If people want some more information on that scenario, the kind of things that can happen, that's on the CREW website, the Cascadia Regional Earthquake Working Group. Basically a 9.0 earthquake out offshore the Cascadia subduction zone. Shaking here like we've never seen before for minutes, like 4 to 6 minutes, damage, destruction. One of the things I mentioned earlier was the Clark Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. We just recently completed that as one of the partners. Caressa led that. 17 other agencies here in the county. People can find that information. It's got information on each one of the natural disasters and the latest, predictions, that stuff, both on the county website and also Caressa has it on their website and their emergency management tab. It's worth taking a look at. It's really big, but if you're interested in earthquake, in flood, it breaks it right down in each section in Volume 1.
And we were just talking about with the recent wildfires, to get the knock on the door in the middle of the night, you got to evacuate in the next 10 minutes. It's got to be quick and ready to go. Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about that Prepare in a Year, and I'm going to keep pushing that one because it kind of goes through different things. It talks real quick and mentions a family communication plan. It mentions finding and at least copying and having ready to go your important documents, those things. And in a wildfire evacuation, definitely having a grab and go kit, something you can just go, get in the car and go. That includes some of those kind of things, important paperwork, basic supplies, some water, some clothing to stay the night, do that kind of stuff, is huge. So, and to get back to what disasters here in Clark County, what I teach at the county new hire is everything except for a hurricane and a tsunami. Other than that, we're susceptible, or it's possible for it to happen in Clark County. Okay. And let's talk about also communication with your family. Not only those living in town, but what about if you have a child off of college, for example? What should you do about
So we encourage people, and this is especially important for us because we have a lot of people who work on one side of the river, have family on the other. An out-of-area contact number. And by out of area, I mean significantly out of the area, probably east of Idaho. One of the things that we know about our communications grid is it can quickly become overloaded in the area of a disaster, provided it's even functioning, yet it's often easy to get messages to someplace halfway across the country. So identify a friend or a family member that people can call into or text. Texting is always better during a disaster. It takes up less bandwidth. And simply know where you're at, that you're all right, and that every member of the family can check in with that person for updates.
Okay. I'm always amazed with these disasters how pets become an issue. People will either don't want to evacuate because they're dealing with their pets, or they don't want to go to the shelters because of pets. What can you do to also consider pets in this situation?
So include pets in your planning is the first thing. As you make a family preparedness kit, include any medications for your pets. Make sure you include food for your pets. If you have a pet that cannot fit in your vehicle, meaning you cannot evacuate your pet, you need to make arrangements within your pet owner community. A lot of people in the equine, the horse community, have agreements with people who own horse trailers so that they can move their animals, their pets, in times of emergencies and disasters. Again, it's part of that whole community planning. Each of us belongs to at least 3 communities: the community we live in, the community we work in, and the community where we spend our spare time. Communities come together in disasters. That's what we saw in Louisiana and Texas. We see it in Puerto Rico. It's critically important that when you do disaster planning, not only do you plan individually, but you plan to be part of, to contribute to, and to get support from all of those communities. Because that creates that level of resilience that gives Mike and I and the partners that we're going to have coming in time in that 10 to 14 days to identify the areas where we have the greatest need, the greatest gaps, and where we can help focus our very limited resources to address those problems. The more resilient a community is, a pet owner community being a really good example, the more resilient they are, the more effectively our community can respond.
Okay. Well, you guys are quickly going through, so we have a little bit of extra time. Any other things you would like to talk about with emergency preparedness?
Like Mike said, 14 days is the ideal, and we really, really want people to have that. But I know that we have people in the community that might be a level of resilience that they're not able to sustain. Then have 10 days, have 7 days. Have as much as you can, and work with your neighbors, the people across the street, the people across the hall in the building you work with, to create that higher level of resilience. We've heard reports from Puerto Rico that many communities are coming together to create their own level of sustainment. One member of that community will help with cooking and barbecuing and outdoor that so that there's food and it's not going to waste. Another member of the community will help with the child care issues. It's communities coming together, small communities, a block, a neighborhood, a collection of 7 to 10 houses. It's those communities coming together, creating that collective resilience that really gives us as a community as a whole the opportunity to begin recovering from disasters.
Okay.
And the other thing I would add is we always talk about the big disaster, and we always get into maybe not even the catastrophic. Catastrophic disaster is like Puerto Rico. I mean, infrastructure's down, those kind of things. Disaster, preparedness kits can help you in even minor incidents. Things like, remember we had the slide up on the I-5 up by Woodland a couple of years ago. We've had it in the last couple of years, but the first one, I think people got stuck on I-5 for 4 or 5 hours. Having a small car kit with a bottle of water, with a couple of snack bars, with a roll of toilet paper, with a rain jacket, with some things like that. You can go through these lists, and there's lists for a grab-and-go personal office kit. There's lists for your home. There's lists for your cars, for your pets. Just go find the information and do it, because preparing now, once it happens, it's too late.
Okay.
And yeah, I would echo that sentiment with Mike, is if you have the basic preparedness and you use it on small emergencies, you're laying the foundations to be ready to respond and help your community respond to even larger emergencies.
One thing, just because isn't it supposed to be like 3 gallons of water or a gallon a day per person?
Yeah.
So you'd be talking like 30 gallons of water.
So most of us have 30 gallons of water storage in our house. You used it to take a shower this morning.
Okay.
The water in your water heater is clean, potable water. have a hose, understand how to drain it, and that's an emergency water supply that's in your house.
There's a great reference for that. I just saw the other day the Regional Water Providers Consortium here in the area actually has something you can print out and hang or put on your water heater exactly how to drain it properly and use that water. The other thing is everybody can store a few gallons. I mean, everybody can find room for that. The other way that I get around some of that is, I personally I've got like a life straw where I can drink water out of a creek or something like that. I lived in Alaska for years, a lot of different ways of doing that, collecting rainwater if need be. I've got a clean bucket around. It's those kind of things that you can start looking to do that you can do cheaply and still, take care of yourself and your family and your neighbors.
Great. That sounds wonderful. So for information, we talked about, so you can go to Clark's website.
So CRESA911.org is the Clark Regional Emergency Services Agency website. So CRESA911.org.
And looking on that, there was links to
There's
a lot.
links. We have different pages. There's information on 911. There's information on how to sign up for public alerts and warnings. So when that bad thing happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can be notified. There's also information on our preparedness site that provides a different link. Like Mike said, the most important thing is to personalize it. There is no one size meets everyone's need disaster kit. Every kit, whether it's a quick grab and go bag, the kit you put in your car, or your whole family survival kit, needs to be personalized to meet your family's individual needs, situations, and capabilities.
Great. Well, thank you both for meeting us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.